he doesn't concede elections. That's always going to be a deal breaker for me. Does not concede elections and has gotten all you guys to pretend that they won the last election.
MAGA Republican Congressman Byron Donalds appeared on the most recent episode of Real Time with Bill Maher, and Bill Maher proceeded to ruthlessly roast Donald Trump and the Republican Party to Byron Donalds' face and visibly annoyed him. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, as you know, I have a soft spot for when Bill Maher brings on MAGA Republicans and tells them about themselves and their cult leader, Donald Trump, to their faces. Bill Maher has a lot of issues. I think that he gives entirely too much time and attention to what he perceives to be major transgressions of the left, when in fact these are niche culture war issues that he hyper-focuses on, but are not a primary focus of the Democratic Party. He's too inclined to give false equivalence or at least gesture in that direction, even though he himself is a critic of it. But Bill Maher has also publicly said that despite his annoyance with the left, he recognizes that the right is just objectively more dangerous and more toxic, and that the Republican Party, unlike the Democratic Party, has been captured by its fringe. But for whatever reason, MAGA Republicans will show up on Real Time with Bill Maher and have awkward encounters. And I'm going to play you a couple here from Byron Donalds. Byron Donalds, we've talked about on this channel before. Is he as high profile as Marjorie Taylor Greene or Jim Jordan? No, but he is just as crazy, just as cultish. This is a guy who has falsified evidence on the floor of the House of Representatives and had to be called out by it by AOC during a House Oversight Committee hearing. Just incredible stuff, really deranged stuff. And so I'm going to play a couple of clips for you. This is in the aftermath, of course, of Donald Trump's disastrous speech at the Republican National Convention. And again, Bill Maher calls out the crazy.
Bye-bye. We're not doing that.
But you know what I'm saying? I mean, all Trump had to do was take the W. And he just couldn't stop himself. This is, I think it reminded people of what they didn't like about him the first time. He is a man who can't control his appetites, whether it's cheating or if you flatter him, he does whatever you want, or he had it on the teleprompter. It was a short speech. It was a perfect moment to pivot from, like, he already had the base. We've known him for 10 years now. He's got them. He just got shot. This was a moment, and he started to do it to say, look, I'm going to be everybody's president, because he certainly didn't do that in the first term. But okay, new guy, a great reason for him to be a new guy.
Right.
Yeah. And he just couldn't do it. He had to start riffing about crazy Nancy Pelosi and...
Oh my God. I mean, Bill, it was like a...
So this is so important. Again, it's like Bill watches Pondering Politics. Hopefully he likes and subscribes. Hopefully you have as well, because these are points that I made in the aftermath of his RNC debate. I was worried that Trump would be able to effectively, cunningly, cynically, but of course not at all sincerely, take the opportunity that was granted to him by the American people and also by the American media, not just right-wing media, CNN, New York Times, AP, Reuters, mainstream media, Axios, teed it up. They're like, listen, Donald, we've graded you on a curve for so many years. The fact that we've been critical about you at all just goes to show how terrible and divisive you are, because we do everything in our power to make it not so. Here's this opportunity for you to just be a little bit normal for like an hour, and we will wipe away your previous transgressions. That insurrection you tried to, affect, we'll forget about it. Just be normal for an hour. By the way, that's an insane proposition that any reasonable, sane, rational electorate and media landscape would never tolerate. They would never say you can't redeem yourself in an hour for 8 years of divisiveness and authoritarianism, whatever. But they teed it up for him. They gave it to him. And he snatched defeat from the jaws of victory by being unhinged. And I also think it's great that Bill Maher points out that Donald Trump should be obligated, if he's going to be president, to be a president for everybody. I not enough attention is paid to this. I feel like I'm the only one shouting this out into the ether, that President Biden and Democrats are forced to at least rhetorically appeal to independents and conservatives. They're asked all the time, what are you going to do for independents? What are you going to do for Republicans? How are you going to be a president for everyone? Which is a fair question to ask, because the president should. And I would also argue that the Democratic agenda and the Democratic policies actually are better for conservative rural voters than Republican policies are for them. We can get into that. But the expectation is never imposed on the Republican candidates. That is absurd. That is yet another asymmetry, another bias that works to the GOP's advantage, which makes Donald Trump's inability to capitalize on the moment that much more ridiculous. He's so stupid. In this clip, Bill Maher goes further and he talks about some of the things that Donald Trump embodied in that speech and exuded in that speech. And you can see Byron Donalds, again, a MAGA cultist and someone whose political career, political trajectory, hinges entirely on Trump's approval and Trump's perception of his support for him. You can just see he's pissed. He's triggered.
But one, he doesn't concede elections. That's always going to be a deal breaker for me. Does not concede elections and has gotten all you guys to pretend that they won the last election. Two, he just lies. Like he doesn't even care or know what he's lying about. I have a list just from last night. The election was stolen. No, it wasn't. Crime is up. Crime is down. Worst inflation ever. It's been 23. It's 3. The people coming, illegals have killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. 107% of new jobs went to illegal aliens. I mean, you were in the hall. You heard this shit. It doesn't bother.
You can see Byron Donalds is just not having it. He has to have a stone cold poker face. He's visibly annoyed with Bill Maher pointing out these facts. And he's also aware that MAGA is watching. In the age of social media, Bill Maher, he's too big of a presence. Real Time with Bill Maher, such a high profile show. Byron Donalds knows that no matter what, his appearance will generate internet traffic. So he has to be very, very careful about how he reacts. He can't appear to be too friendly with Bill Maher insulting Donald Trump, his cult leader. He can't be, he has to moderate his reaction. And so he doesn't fly off the handle the way that Marjorie Taylor Greene would, but you can see just the visible annoyance on his face. And this is something he wants to project, not just to Maher, but to MAGA watching. Hey, listen, he's talking smack about God Emperor Donald Trump. I didn't nod along. I gave nothing. I gave nothing indicating that anything Bill Maher was saying was true, when in fact it all was true. I think it's good that people like Bill Maher are able to have conversations with MAGA Republicans because I do think it's instructive. I wish sometimes Bill Maher would go harsher on them. But again, he's pretty blunt. He's like, listen, the guy is a liar and he's made you liars too. Notice how he says he won't concede elections and he's made you all pretend that he won the last election, even though you all know he didn't. I mean, again, he's calling Byron Donalds a liar to his face. There's utility in that. It's important to show people that and to show MAGA's response to it. So all I know is as the election gets closer, we are going to see MAGA harden even further, right? And Donald Trump was given enormous opportunity. I mean, the political momentum is in his favor. There's no question. He's not guaranteed to win the election. President Biden still has a fighting chance. The polling shows that this race is in the margin of error. If President Biden no longer is the candidate, again, it's within the margin of error. There are paths to victory here. One of the paths, in my opinion, is reminding people that MAGA is not normal. MAGA is crazy. MAGA is a cult. And even when you give a gazillion opportunities for Trump and MAGA to dial back the crazy and just be normal and not be an authoritarian cult of personality, they spit on every opportunity handed to them. And that's why you can't trust MAGA Republicans with the levers of power in November. That's a case that Bill Maher is basically teeing up for you and I to make, and it's something that I think we should continue to make as the election draws nearer. Let me know what you think in the comments.